Alright everyone, welcome back to Planet Zoo. We are finally here, episode 15, at the end of this first season of Project COVEA. Today we are finishing up the entirety of the Petrified Plateaus, and then the Ruby Basin will be finished on the streams while we're over in Subnautica, and then we can get a fully fresh start in the new season of Project COVEA, the big revamp that we've been building up to for all this time. Now, I've got quite a lot of stuff that I want to talk about in today's episode, and we have quite a lot of time to do it. This is going to be probably a longer episode as compared to normal, which I think is good for sending off the series just for a little while. The first thing we're doing here is building up the kind of platform that these viewing areas are on. I noticed while I was building this, there's so many issues with this design, and realistically, maybe I should have changed it, but I got too far in and I figured it really just wasn't worth the effort of changing. So I did end up using it, and you know what, I think it looks good. At least this one looks good, but there's another one all the way up north, which you guys might remember, over by the orangutans and safari habitats, and that doesn't look so great. It looks a bit stupid, and you know what, I might tinker around with it. It just doesn't look like it should be able to stand up like that. So chances are I'm going to make some changes to that stuff, but I had no real inspiration on how to do these areas, so I've just done this temporarily at least. But you can see I'm repeating all the textures and colours that I've used in the previous modern structures of this area. Of course, we've got the old stuff, which is all the temple pieces, and then we've got the modern stuff, which is all the white painted wood and the breeze block columns, or the breeze block pieces at least. They're not all columns necessarily. Regardless, there are some things that I'm going to need to change in this area. For example, I think I want either a monorail or some kind of gondola connecting all these different regions of the park, for example, the Ruby Basin and the Petrified Plateaus. In an ideal world, I would have built them so much closer to each other, but I really just didn't think ahead. And really, that is my bad. We're going to end up with a product that isn't necessarily perfect in my eyes, but hey, what can you do? So because all the different regions of the zoos are so far apart, the Ruby Basin is in the bottom left, the Petrified Plateaus are in the top left, the next area I'm going to be working on is the top right, and I don't really have any plans for that, but you can imagine there'd be something in the bottom right, and then in the middle I want to have technically what would be the zoo entrance, and then I'll have 4 monorails or 4 gondolas or jeep rides, whatever, all kind of going to these different areas of the zoo. So I really don't know how to describe it. It's not going to be perfect, but I think it really is the best solution for the situation we're in. I'm fully aware I'm stumbling over all my words, by the way. It's because I'm kind of trying to think about what I'm going to do whilst talking. Ideally, you know, I could write out a script or something like that, or at least think about it beforehand, but hey, authenticity, I suppose. But the next thing I want to talk about is the Subnautica series, albeit briefly because I know I've talked a lot about it recently, but we're going to be having an episode 0 coming out next week. Now, this is going to be in a very different style to the normal series, but of course, as you guys saw in the timetable that I mentioned last week, I would have had Planet Zoo this week and then Subnautica on the Tuesday next week, so I would have had less than a week to prepare my first episode, and that simply isn't enough time, so I decided I would just start working on a little prelude, an episode 1, just showing the beauty of Subnautica really. There's no commentation, just a little music in the background and some beautiful kind of cinematic shots of the game, so I'd very much appreciate if you guys check that out. And then of course episode 1 will be coming out 2 weeks after that, episode 2 4 weeks after that, etc, etc. And I'm actually really excited to be working on the Subnautica thing. Of course, you guys would have seen the Mystical Skyblock grand finale type deal, my video. I really enjoyed making that one, and my Subnautica video is kind of going to be a similar process to that, as opposed to COVEA, which is really quite different. And the next thing I wanted to talk about was the chances that a Planet Zoo DLC are going to come out within the period that we're doing Subnautica, which really is quite unfortunate. I have a really strong feeling there's going to be a DLC. There normally is a DLC every 3 months, and we started the COVEA series over 3 months ago now, actually. We're on episode 15. 12 episodes would have been the 3-month mark, so there's definitely due for another DLC, and people are thinking it's going to be early August, late July, which is not ideal, but I really do want to do something with that. Maybe we'll make a series separate to COVEA, but a kind of detour from it, so an expedition to the outback in Australia if it's an Australian DLC, or an African safari if it's an African DLC, that kind of thing. So if there is an update or a DLC to Planet Zoo, I'm definitely going to be playing that as much as I can, but Subnautica will still take precedent because I know I've been kind of hyping up the series. And real quickly, I want to rattle off a couple DLC ideas that I have, just so if I do happen to be right with any of these animals or the kind of labels for any of these packs, then I can have bragging rights, because I would very much like to rub that in everybody's faces. The first DLC pack that I thought of was the Australian Outback or Oceania DLC, which it seems a lot of people think this is going to be the DLC coming out this summer. My choices for this pack range from the really obvious koala and red kangaroo to the kind of more abstract Tasmanian devil, which whilst technically not in Australia and instead on the Isle of Tasmania would still fit in my opinion. The southern cassowary is also more southern Oceania but north of Australia, so that works for the pack in my opinion, and I can't see any other instance that they would really be able to include it. And as the South America pack also included one exhibit animal, which was the red-eyed green tree frog, I do believe, I also felt it was right to include one for the Australian pack, so my choice for that would be the thorny devil, which by the way is an incredibly interesting animal, so if you're interested in that kind of thing, I think you should go and check that out. I've also got a list of Australian animals, but most of them I don't feel would really fit the current roster in the game because they're either small mammals or birds, which the game really doesn't have at the moment, but this list includes sugar gliders, lyrebirds spelt with a quirky way, with a Y and not an I, the rainbow lorikeets are really beautiful birds, frogmouth birds, I bet you can't guess where they got that name from, the platypus, one of the very few egg-laying mammals on Earth, followed by kiwis, the bird not the fruit, and finally Australian pelicans. All of which I think would be really cool to have in the game, but I don't think will be added. The second DLC pack I have dubbed the Himalayan pack, although it could also be called Asian or East Asian to be a bit more specific. I included the Corsac fox because I really think a fox has a place in the game. It's a smaller predatory mammal and I really think it should be in the game. There really aren't any foxes yet and I love foxes, so I'd love to see a Corsac fox or maybe a fennec fox in a different pack. Who knows? I also added the Taken, which is kind of a cross between an American bison and a mountain goat, at least visually. I'm sure it doesn't really have much genetic connection. But either way, a very unique and obscure looking creature. The third animal for this pack was the Eurasian lynx, because again, I want more small predatory mammals. We've got the bears, we've got the big cats, we've got wolves, but we don't really have any foxes or small predatory things such as lynxes. So that's why I'm including the Eurasian lynx. And the final animal for this Himalayan pack is the binturong. Forgive me for that pronunciation. I've seen these animals in real life and actually really interesting, although the ones that I saw were incredibly aggressive. But they are really interesting creatures and I really think they hold a spot in the game. Like I said, I don't know how you pronounce the name, so I've probably got that wrong. But it's up on screen now, so you at least know how to spell it. And if you're interested, I would check that out. That is the final animal on my Himalayan DLC. My final list here isn't really linked to a specific area or a specific kind of DLC I could imagine in the game, but this is more animals that I really want to be added, but I couldn't really think of how or what they could be added with. So this list goes the wolverine, which lives primarily in North America and Northern Asia, the giant otter, which lives mostly in Brazil and some neighbouring countries there in South America, the rockhopper penguin also in South America, more along the rocky coastlines around Chile, the alligator snapping turtle from the southeast United States, the fossa from Madagascar, and the capybara also from mostly Brazil, just like the giant otter. So, I think that just about covers it. You best believe if I'm right about any of this, primarily the Australian/Oceania DLC, that I'm gonna rub it in your faces, and fingers crossed that I am, to be honest, because I'd love to have some of these animals in Project COVEA. Some of them are actually endangered, so we definitely would have them, and I actually tried to pick some of the more endangered animals, though not all of them are. Anyways, moving on. Hopefully you enjoyed that list, maybe you learned a little something, and I hope you enjoyed those graphics that I probably didn't need to put in, but I felt like doing it anyway. So you're welcome for that. You may have noticed in the background while I was talking about all that stuff that we built up the second viewing platform, and now I'm doing this little kind of seating area in the gap of the path that we had over the safari habitat. I'll show you properly what I meant about that viewing platform when we get to the tour at the end of the video. It looks better than it did, but I still think there could be some things to make it look that bit better because I'm really not happy with it at the moment, but I'm not going to go on about that again. The very final thing that I wanted to talk about before we get into the real-time tour in literally just a minute is the fact that my Pinterest has been right at the bottom of the description ever since episode 1. I've simply never mentioned it on video before. I have a board there which is where I get most of my inspiration for Project COVEA, Truth be told, I haven't used it in quite a while. This Petrified Plateau area obviously has been much more open, so I really haven't needed inspiration for architecture or anything like that recently. But I'm definitely going to be using it a hell of a lot more when we get to the next region of the zoo, when we get back to Project COVEA. So I would definitely recommend checking that out if you want any inspiration, and you can follow my boards, etc. And yeah. Anyways, like I said, we are just about at the end of the time lapse. I am about to get into the real-time tour so I can show you the entire finished Petrified Plateaus, bar probably a couple things. So I will see you in just a second. Alrighty, so I told you it was just going to be a couple seconds, but we are back in real time to give you guys a tour of pretty much the entire Petrified Plateaus. I know this little area at the bottom is not fully complete, and I have been low on time, but that's not really the reason that I didn't do it. The reason I didn't do it is, as I mentioned with the monorail earlier, the kind of monorail or gondola that's going to be leading to the central area, where you're going to kind of go on different monorails to get to different areas of the zoo. For example, there'll be one to the Ruby Basin, one to the plateaus, etc. I want to put the stop for the monorail or gondola right here. I think that's the best spot to do it, and then I can kind of lead it out, aligning with this path, curving here, and then it can go right over this wooden fence, which means the wooden fence kind of looks more in place because it's kind of blocking off the monorail so they can't climb up it, rather than the rock walls and the trees and stuff that we've got blocking all the other animals. I will say my game does not like this area with the amount of trees and rocks. Every rock face, every different height variation is covered in rocks. So I'm getting like 20 FPS. I know OBS doesn't pick up my FPS timer, but it's up in the top right hand corner for me. It's just the Steam FPS counter, and my god, it does not like it. But still, just stuff like this has really brought it together. Just having some plants in the middle of these platforms here and some little walls like this. You truly can just walk around the plateaus now, and everywhere you look is really just a nice thing to look at. You know, there's no ugly big structure that's not hidden or anything like that. You can see the orangutans playing down there. I also don't know if I mentioned this, I changed it ages ago, but the keepers needed a way to get over the water as well. So this pathway over the waterfall is just thick enough for the keepers to walk over, but not thick enough for the orangutans to walk over, which means the keeper can walk over it and get to this little feeding area because they kept getting hungry. I mean, look at this wide section. We've got seats on the left, a big open area there into the Bornean orangutans, and then we've got this kind of more shrouded walkway, which looks really cool in my opinion. Then you can go down to this side and sit on some more benches. I'm probably going to have some picnic tables here. I'm not sure I haven't added them yet. I must have just forgotten, but they will be done in no time. And as you come out that area, I especially like this little view. It's kind of a gap in the trees. If I move this one, actually, maybe... Yeah, I actually like that a lot better without the tree. That way you can see into the little bonobo area. There aren't many other places you can look into that section of the habitat, so that's really cool actually. And I know you can see the staff area in the background, but like I mentioned, those will be touched up eventually, most likely on stream. Then you continue down, walking past the safari habitat, which we've been going past the entire time. I just haven't really looked to my left. This is where you get to the little monorail area, but like I said, it's pretty ugly at the moment. And this is the gorilla and chimpanzee habitat. Speaking of gorillas and chimpanzees, I haven't yet added the chimpanzees, so I'm going to go ahead and do that here with you guys. So I'm going to open up animal trading here, scroll down, find western chimpanzee, which will be somewhere. There he is. How many can I have? I actually don't know. Probably quite a lot, but I just want to make sure. Here is the chimpanzees. I can't remember what this is. Up to 10 males and up to 10 females. Okay, so I'm thinking 2 males and 4 females. That's what I'm thinking. So we can just grab all these. That's 2 males, 2 females. Then I can hit refresh and grab this and this. You know what? I'm going to grab 1 more male just because that guy is golden. Perfect. So now I can head to my animal storage. I've got all these chimps. You know what, actually, I'm just going to send 1 in at the moment because if he really doesn't like the exhibit, it's going to be a huge pain to fix it. Speeding up time, he'll get here eventually. There we go, here he is. Forgotten your name already, mate. Bakari. That's a nice name. But his habitat is all pretty much at 100% bar the plants. Maybe he wants a little more plants. Oh no, it's the fact that I've got some that are native to South or North America. I believe this guy Well, this guy's one of the two, and one of the two isn't right. So, oh well. Oh no, never mind. It says continents Africa right here. That makes complete sense. So it likes the fact that these are jungle plants, but it doesn't like the fact that they're South American or North American plants. They should be tropical African plants, but I really do not care about that. I haven't thought about that in any other habitat in the zoo. And then the only other thing is hard shelter, which, again, they've got this little area, but I think the reason it doesn't count it is because they have to climb over the area. I mentioned how that stuff works in the last episode. So that's fine. I'm really just not going to worry about that. The enrichment 2 is also good enough. His entire wealth there is at 81%. So you know what? I'm very much happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and grab all the other chimpanzees. Speed up time once again so this guy can have some friends. This will probably take a while to get all 6 of them in here actually, so I'm going to skip ahead. Alright, I believe those are our last guys coming in here now. So let's slow down the game to normal speed. If I fly up here, you can see all the gorillas are over here. There's probably a chimpanzee or two. Is this a chimp? No, it is not. Okay, I don't know where that original chimp that ran off went, but let's take a look at this guy. Who are you? Wow, I'm lagging. Oh, there was another one coming in there. Yamina, hello. Oh, you're cute. Please don't play the piano like a maniac. Look at him. He's bolting. What a legend. I don't know why I love watching the more hyperactive animals run around in this game. It's really funny. But it seems as though they're able to use everything. Yeah, it shows that they can walk over all these platforms. So that is great. Actually, I think it fixed. So now it's showing, even when it's on this side, now it's showing that it can walk over here. So I think that fixed, unless it was just the gorillas being weird. Yeah. Okay, it seems like the gorillas were just being weird. Well, you know what? That's actually kind of cool. So the gorillas can have this side of the habitat all to themselves, and if the chimps for some reason possibly getting bullied or something by the gorilla, which I doubt they would, but if they are, then they can run over to this side where the gorillas can't really get to. So yeah, I believe that makes all the animals here in the Petrified Plateaus. Also, I don't believe I've ever showed you guys this on video. This is the work zone area. It kind of just shows you all the barriers to the habitats, and you can really see just how big and how small some of them are. The bonobos are incredibly small. I didn't even realize they seem a lot bigger when you look at it. And what really amazed me when I looked at this for the first time was how huge the safari habitat is. That guy is huge. You can see why that was a dual episode one, can't you? And just to compare, I'm going to stay at the same height and just hold D to go over to the Ruby Basin. You guys can see the hippo habitat when I get over there, and you'll see just how much the scale has stepped up. So these are orange because I'm looking in the wrong work zone, but it really doesn't make a difference. You can see how small the red panda and gorilla habitats are, although I still think they're two of the cooler ones in the entire zoo. But you can see the hippo and flamingo habitat there on the right, and you can see the pygmy hippo habitat there. This is the quarantine area, which I'll show you in a second, that we kept working on stream. This area you can't see it because there's no full barrier, but this is the giant otter habitat, which again, as I mentioned earlier, I really want giant otters to be added to the game. Please add to the game. I want to fill this exhibit with giant otters, but they're just not here, but it's so well, can't complain. But now that we are here in the Ruby Basin, I will show you the updated staff area. Like I said, it's still not done, but you can see we've got these little metal things sticking out the corners of the walls, which I've got lots of grass and stuff growing over, and it's kind of expanding onto the wall. Also got a little clock here, and I can't remember if I mentioned it in the last episode, but we've got these little signs saying free prep, quarantine, and staff room. And I've got that kind of backstage quarantine area where you could actually section off different ill animals. There is basically 3 sections. You can see the little chain link fences. I could just put one here, and I believe one here. Yeah, and that would section it off into 3 separate smaller enclosures. And then we've got this, which I think, to be honest, is finished. We've got some jeeps and just some enrichment items, boxes, anything you might need to just store in a certain area. Really just an area to keep old things that they don't really have a place for in the zoo at the moment. But I really like the way it turned out. But that is about it for episode 15, the finale of Project COVEA for the time being. Like I said, after Subnautica, we are coming back to the series, but I think a little break is definitely just. So I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you for sticking with this series. If you have watched every or most episodes, it's really nice of you, and I really appreciate all the support. I mean, just look at this animal list. This list is huge. To say we're only 15 episodes in, look how many animals we have. I wonder is there a way to actually count it? Oh yeah, it says 76 down at the bottom. 76? Why did I say 76? 78. We've got 78 animals with the entire zoo, and we're about probably halfway through when it comes to that stuff. But anyways, yes, Subnautica first episode coming out next Tuesday. Well, not really the first episode, it's a special one you guys will see. But thank you all for watching. I appreciate all your support. If you want to see more content, like and subscribe. I will see you all in the next one. Bye guys!